What happened to me first was in Christmas of 1985. I had a shocking close encounter that left me completely undone because it appeared to be an encounter with aliens. It was very violent and totally unexpected. Came into the middle of a life that was basically unrelated to the UFO phenomenon in any way. And I spent months trying to understand what had happened to me from a medical standpoint, and eventually concluded that it was unexplained. I was very frightened by it and began to go out into the woods in the middle of the night to confront those fears. And the result of this was that the visitors returned to my life, and that began what has turned out to be a 10-year relationship with them. During that period of time, so much has happened outside of my experience, along the lines of first the crop circles began to come, then things like the Mexican UFO videos began to be made, and now they're extracting implants from people. There's so much physical evidence of something strange going on that in 1986 I thought I had a medical problem. By 1989 I was fairly sure it was some kind of hallucinatory thing. Now, in 1996, if this isn't dead on real, I'll eat my hat. Only I have one question left. Who's doing this? Aliens or people? I don't know the answer yet. But I think that the presence of implants like the one I have in my own earlobe means all bets are off. This is real. It's physical. But what is it? Okay, the first event that happened to me, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was awakened by the fact that I felt like I was in motion. And I turned out to be in a little room full of what looked to me like gigantic insects, which were peering at me. I thought it was a nightmare, and I kept trying to wake up from the nightmare, but the nightmare was happening while I was awake. I was not home in my bed anymore. I was in an entirely different place. And they fired a needle into the side of my head. They did a rectal probe into my body. There was a voice, like an electronic voice, going, "What can we do to help you stop screaming?" It was an appalling experience. It was indistinguishable from real life, except as I understood real life at that time, it was something that couldn't happen. That was the first experience. Subsequently, there were many different types of experience, close approaches, encounters, other abductions that eventually led to a situation that I live in now, where there's a very formal structure to the encounters, and they come only at particular moments, like I needed some information for the last chapter of the book I'm writing. I needed it from the visitors. There was no one else who could give it to me. There was an encounter, and I received the information I needed for the book. That's the kind of thing that happens now. In other words, it's become communication. At first, it was just dead-on attack. Now it's much more communicative. I wouldn't say it's pleasant, but it surely is interesting.
And your state of consciousness at that moment is in the same domain we're in now?
Yeah, I was just like I am now, except I was scared. I was just terribly scared. I couldn't understand what had happened to me. Where had they come from? What were they? Why did it look like that? My fear at that time, even while I was having the experience, was primarily not a fear of them, but a fear of the fact that I could not get out of this, because I thought I had become psychotic and that I could not escape from a hallucinatory horror. Of course, the thing is, it was not a hallucination. That's very clear to me now. It's been 10 years of questioning and searching for me to come to the point where I would say that. However, you can't not say that now. There's too much evidence that someone is here. Of course it was real.
Can you kind of, on the Hopkins Jacobs
on the being abducted and put on a table?
Can we talk a little bit about that?
Well, I get letters from people who've had that and have the table thing as part of their thing, and the business about being a breeder and so forth. That's all got some substance to it, I'm sure, because we get so many letters about it. It's not the whole experience. It's a very complex experience. There's lots of different things happening to people besides that. But I think it's very valid to say that's probably part of it, yeah.
Can you kind of extrapolate on that? I mean, about the variety of experiences that are being recorded?
Yeah, experiences range all over the lot. There are a lot of people who go different places in space-time or different places in time. There are people who encounter their own dead friends and relatives in the company of the visitors. There are encounters that appear to be related somehow to the psychology of the individual involved. There are sexual encounters that seem to have something to do not with breeding, but with some other kind of some other sexually related thing. There are straightforward breeder experiences where there are people who are having their sexual material affected in some way. I would agree with Hopkins and Jacobs about that. I think it's true. When I first started hearing about that, it hadn't happened to me, and I was very reticent about it because it seemed quite terrible. But I've met and talked face to face with people who have lived with this for years, and they're not lying. They're flat out not lying. We may not understand what that's really about, but it's very clear that what it looks like is that some kind of hybrids or something are being created by these people. That's what it looks like.
Well, we're not exactly totally and completely sure of what is going on with this phenomenon. What we do know is that we're looking at an alien agenda that is based on the physiological exploitation of one species by another species. In other words, people feel that sperm is being taken from them, eggs are being taken from them, babies are being implanted in them and then removed. All of this is for an agenda that is being kept essentially hidden from us. I look at this phenomenon with a certain amount of alarm. Other people feel that it's more benign than I might feel. But whatever it is being kept from us. I feel that if this were a phenomenon that were ultimately to help us, that we would probably know this and that the abductors would have made this clear, but this is not what has happened actually. And so I'm really very, very disturbed about what I've seen.
My sperm was extracted from my body. Sometimes I say the aliens harvested my sperm, and it was inseminated into another human being, and an embryo was created as a result of that series of events. Those experiences led to what I perceive as a higher order experiment, which the aliens were conducting. They were successful in extracting sperm and creating a human embryo in the physical conscious world.
Their main concept was creating a hybrid breed. At least that's what they told me, that they were trying to create a race of people that could live in our atmosphere and in their atmosphere. And they had not yet produced that person. Now, on another occasion, I remembered being shown a baby that really favored my grandson a lot. If you would, give it the slant eyes, they weren't as big as their eyes, but it looked human. And I knew that this was my child, and I wanted to take that child with me, but they said that it would not be able to live in this atmosphere.
I've learned a big lesson in the past 10 years. If it looks like a wrench, call it a wrench, not a device. Call a spade in the thing. Until you understand another level of it, if it looks like they're making hybrids, let's say they probably are. Because this is so deceptive, this thing. You got to stay with what it looks like. Keep it simple.
Is hypnosis an effective? It's a tool. Now,
if it's used right, it's a good tool. But using it right is something we really don't know enough about yet.
And can you tell us, Richard, something very quickly about the appearance of the area that you're going into? Perhaps a corridor, perhaps rooms, perhaps machinery, perhaps anything descriptive.
It's a very circular room. It's very, very big. There's like computers, flashing lights on the wall, but it's a big expanse. And from where I am, there's all like computers and lights. From there, there's like a table slightly here. It's like all the equipment is on one side, and where they take people is on that side. But they have to keep going backwards and forwards to do the... They cannot experience the Earth experience in their current physical state. So we experience it for them, and it's a passing of information. They learn from us what it's like to walk down the street, what it's like to wear clothes, what it's like to eat, breathe, sleep, talk, watch the television, everything that is to do with the Earth existence. They want to know about it, and the best way to know about it, apart from doing it yourself, is to... It's like they connect directly into our experiences and our memories, and they don't have to experience it themselves. We experience it for them. It's like I can see things and feel things, but it's like it's out of my reach of understanding what it is. If you know what I mean, I just feel...
Yes.
I suppose it's like I am trying to suppress this. I can see it, but I can't formulate it in my head. I can't express it for you. I can't.
Does it disturb you?
Yes.
It disturbs you. We'll leave it.
There's lots of problems, not because of the fact that the hypnotists are incompetent or insincere, but because we just don't know enough about the way that process affects the mind to be certain that it's useful. Like, for example, Daryl Sims and Bud Hopkins use different types of hypnosis and get different results quite often from people. Why is that? We need to, it's not that either one of them is doing it wrong or doing the wrong thing. It's just that we don't know quite how that works yet.
Is that the therapist affecting the situation? I mean, the therapist...
Oh, I think there's far less of that than people assume.
So
people,
how do you describe the fact that they're all working in the same domain but looking at different, drawing out different aspects? Is that, and you're saying that that's not the effect of the therapist affecting the...
We don't know why it's like that. It may be the hypnosis technique. It may be some kind of interaction with the therapist. I'm just not sure. But the thing is, hypnosis is really rather irrelevant to me. It's all of the things that are attempting to find motives and observational details and so forth are unimportant. What's really important, and the reason I've changed my position so much over these past few years, implants are being physically taken out of people. Then, therefore, this is real. I mean, I'm just going to stand on that. It is real. I don't know whether the implants were put in by aliens or not, but I do know they're there. And to me, until we figure out what that's about and who put them there and why, we don't know anything about this experience. All we really know about this experience is the implants are real.
Is that the basis of you saying there is physical proof?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you take a person who has remembered alien experiences under hypnosis, remembers an implant being put in their leg, they're x-rayed, the implant is seen, and then it's removed by a doctor, and that has happened. You can't tell me that's not real. It is real. The only question is, was the hypnosis accurate in the sense of who put it there? Certainly the lady remembered where it was under hypnosis. The x-ray confirmed its existence. But did she remember under hypnosis who really put it there or not? We don't know, because we don't know the effect of the implants, and we don't know whether or not if you got past all of the interference, you wouldn't find soldiers putting it into her. Or it might be there really are aliens out there doing it. We just can't be sure of anything right now. This is a time not for answers, but for questions. I've seen too much from the secret government to jump to the conclusion that any of it is being done by aliens. We have to be sure first that it's not being done by human beings. I include in that, by the way, the UFOs that are appearing in the skies and being videoed, the whole phenomenon. The reason is that if you read the documents that have been declassified under the Freedom of Information Act about the MK Ultra project that was conducted by the CIA in the 60s and 70s, what you read there is the activities of psychotics engaged in insane programs that used and abused the minds of innocent people in ways that make the activities of the Nazi doctors at Auschwitz look tame. And this was done by Americans in the continental United States under a cloak of secrecy. It is among the most evil things that human beings have ever done to other human beings. It was done by the United States government's Central Intelligence Agency. That is a real, true fact. MK Ultra was a real program. They induced people to become psychotic using LSD. It's in black and white. It's in court records. It's real. People who did something like that are capable of anything. The fact that those people remain concealed behind a barrier of secrecy from public scrutiny means that objects appearing in the human body in this country, implants that seem to have something to do with mind control, we have to investigate first the secret government. Second, we look for aliens. We've got a monster on our hands behind the cloak of secrecy. We've got to get rid of it. Our country has cancer. Our country's freedom is dying of the cancer. The cancer is called CIA, NSA, NRO, DIA. Those are the acronyms of the death of freedom. Yeah, National Security Act. Yes.
And what was it that kind of turned you around into looking at terrestrial origins of these encounters?
Because I remember when this implant was put in my ear, and I saw the people who did it, and they were people, not aliens.
Can we talk a little bit about the nature of the experience? I mean, sort of the structure of it. You refer to their hyper-consciousness in the sense. Can we talk in that domain, the domain of consciousness? How it affects you, how their consciousness affects you? What's the nature of that experience?
Okay, the other level of this is there is certainly a level of consciousness in this thing that is beyond the human. Whether that I'm talking about aliens or not, I don't know. I'm talking about something greater than mankind. And you tap into that consciousness every once in a while. And when you do that, you become free of time, for example. You begin to be able to move physically through time, which is, it seems impossible that someone would sit here and say, I have gone back in time. I've walked the streets of other days, but I have done it. I have absolutely done it. No question in my mind about it, it's true. And I know a lot of other people who have too. When this other level of consciousness comes into play, things change. I look at it this way. There's a dark, demonic, evil level of this thing. And there's also something very sublime connected with it. I want the sublime part, and I want the evil part away from me.
But then that's all part of the experience, so how can you say that? I mean, you have to kind of accept both extremes, don't you? To get to the.
I don't think so. I don't think a good person has any reason to expect evil in their lives.
Mm-hmm. But that's part of the experience. But okay, so then that's our own fear being projected to the experience?
I wouldn't say so.
The experience?
I've seen evil. I've seen evil things done. Mm-hmm. I think putting implants in people without telling them what it's about is evil. Mm-hmm. It may be. I don't believe that the ends justify the means. That's not the ethic by which I live. I don't do things that are evil in order to achieve a good end. If you can't achieve, if you achieve a good end by evil means, it's not a good end. So therefore, these things don't belong in us, but they're there.
Can we talk a little bit about, let's talk about your book and the impact of your book. I mean, and also, this idea that it's real fiction in a way. I mean, because most people don't have access to what you're discussing. I mean,
not now, but they will, believe me.
Yeah, but in their experience, now they don't. So what was the response to your book, and can you kind of talk in that?
Well, first of all, it's not a book. You're looking at a life. This is a man's life being written down in words and spoken on radio and television and in lectures and so on and so forth. It's a bunch of books. Communion, Transformation, Majestic, and Breakthrough, and then in next February, The Secret School. That's what it is, a whole life. What's the reaction to it? Well, frankly, at first there was a lot of skepticism. But every day that passes, more and more people are waking up to the fact that I'm onto something, that we are all onto something. The whole community of people involved in this are. We don't know what we've got yet, but we've got something by the tail, and it's beginning to buck and kick. I'm not going to let go of it until I know what it is. Absolutely not.
Would you consider your experience as one of contact or abduction, or a mixture of both? Or can you make that?
Oh, there's only been one or two real outright abductions where I have literally waked up in the presence of apparent aliens, once or twice, maybe 3 times. Mostly, they've been much more in the nature of contact experiences, and some of them I would say have the quality of reality about them. I would be surprised if it wasn't alien contact. But as I say, until I know for sure what the government's been doing, I can't say that for certain. I've got to get that sort of static cleared out of the system first. to be sure that it's not an illusion induced by some kind of psychotic government agents bent on creating a new religion or something. I mean, goodness knows what kind of lunatic nonsense they could come up with. But I will tell you this, that you want to find psychosis in our country, people in need of therapy, go to the secret government and you will find people who desperately need to be on the psychiatrist's couch. The problem is, instead of being on the psychiatrist's couch, they have absolute power and the possession of unlimited sources of funds and technology of almost unbelievable potency. We've put psychotics in control of the most powerful weapons in the world. And then closed the door and said, go do this on your own. And crazy stuff is starting to come out of there, and we better watch it because we're in trouble.
Is there a central message to your contact? And is that coming from human-formed beings, or is there a presence that you...
The central message of my life is that the human soul can come free and be free in this world. There is no reason in the world why we cannot understand who we truly are, why we are here, where we are going, while there is no reason why the average individual cannot be fully empowered to meet the cosmos on his own terms. We are incredibly powerful beings. The whole system that we live in drills into us that we're powerless, that we're weak, that our society is evil, that it's crime-ridden, etc., and so forth. It's all a big, fat lie. We are powerful, beautiful, extraordinary. We have to wake up to that, and when we do wake up to that, we're going to sweep aside the cancer that is eating our government. We're going to find out the truth about whether or not there are aliens here, and we're going to be able to learn to work with them productively if they are here.
Now, is this part of the message that's coming from your...
This is the message that comes from me. I can't tell you that I've got a message from on high. I'm just an ordinary guy, and I don't get messages from on high. Any message that I come with, I evolved in my own being and mind.
Are there precedents? Talk a little bit about precedents. Is this part of a larger reality, sort of a hierarchy of beings? Where do your entities fit into that? I mean, can you...
I can't explain it. I have no idea. I'm not even interested in hierarchies of beings. Hierarchies bore me, because that means that somebody's got to be on the bottom. And I don't believe in the bottom. I don't think it exists. This is a universe that's all tops.
Where do these entities fit in that you're working with?
I don't know. I know where I fit in. Where we fit in, that's what matters to me.
In your book, you talk about that this is occurring in the domain of the mind, and this is a mental phenomenon in a sense. And you make the connection into their reality, into their sort of hyper-consciousness through this.
Yeah, but when I wrote that, I didn't know about the implants. I didn't. This is a recent discovery, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm certain that mind control is involved, and I'll tell you why. In 1989, I had MRI scans done of 10 people who reported implants, including myself. The doctor and I read these reports. We looked at the MRI scans, and we concluded there were no implants in these people. About 2 weeks ago, I realized, after Dr. Roger Lear began taking implants out of people, that there was something wrong. So I opened up the archive and went back to the reports. And 2 of them have plain as day descriptions of classic implants in the heads of these people. Why didn't we know it? Why didn't we see that? I mean, anyone could see it. It doesn't even take a radiologist to see the things. They're described to a T, and you can see them in the MRI scans clearly. Also in 1989, a woman, Ruth Dagonet, had an implant removed from her body after her death, from her ear, from her left ear, the same place this one is. That was not studied by a single soul until 1995. Why not? Why didn't they take it directly from her body into a lab and study it? You could get a basic study done of a thing like that for a couple $100. It's not expensive. Somehow, nobody did it in 1989, even though there were at least 3 confirmed implants in existence then. Now, I don't think that there's any explanation for that except mind control. My mind was, in my opinion, affected in some way. And I'm here to say that we have lost 6 valuable years, because we could have known about the implant 6 years ago, and we didn't.
Have you hypothesis as to why the implants? Is it strictly mind control? What's the reason for the government?
Whoever put the implants in, I do not know why they're there, and I think that there is, and in fact I know because I'm setting it up, is going to be extensive scientific testing of these things. The scientific community is very interested because these are physical objects. They're coming out of people. They're anomalous. They cannot be explained away, no matter how many paid-off prostitutes the government puts on TV to explain them away. They can't be explained away. There's no way to explain them. They're there.
Is the nature of the experience a mystical experience, or is that just how we perceive it?
I don't know the answer. I don't know whether it is a mystical experience or simply that's the way we perceive it. All bets are off now. This physical evidence means that we don't know what we're dealing with anymore. We have to start anew in that respect. And where we start is understanding the implants and what their function is and what they do. And it's not impossible. It's not technology so far beyond us that we can't possibly understand it. I already know a certain amount about the implants because there's already been some initial studies done. We are going to understand what they do. We're going to be able to detect the signals that they generate and that they pick up if they do. There's no question about it. We will be able to do this. Within 5 years, we will know the answer of the implants. And once we know the answer to what the implants do, we will also begin to be able to understand what the true meaning of the perceptions we've had are.
Could you summarize a breakthrough and possibly the new book you're working on?
Well, sure. Breakthrough is a book about getting past fear. I'm interested in empowerment, self-empowerment, and the empowerment of other people. I will not simply sit and passively tell horror stories. I'm going to go after that fear and find a way to conquer it. I don't care whether the aliens, if they are aliens, are good, bad, or ugly. I don't care. What I care about is being able to face this in a coherent, rational, and effective manner, and you can't do that if you're scared. Breakthrough is about getting past the fear. And not by dismissing the danger, but by learning to live with it in an effective way, in a useful way, and in a reasonably cautious way. The Secret School is an attempt to go into my childhood experiences insofar as I understand them now. Everybody practically in this experience has childhood memories. It's not something that starts when you're an adult. We need to be able to access our childhood memories. I'm hoping that the Secret School is preparation for contact in that sense. I think at the bottom of this, what we're going to find is that there are real aliens here, some of them with an agenda that we don't want anything to do with, some of them who can be very useful for us to know and very productive for us to know. I think there is a human element here which has radically misused technology that they picked up from or developed out of ideas from observing alien technology, and that is interfering in this as well, and that it is a very complicated pea soup of horrors and wonders, and we need to strain that soup so that we've got just the wonders left and get rid of the horrors.
Who should read this new book?
Who should read it?
Yes.
Anybody who's interested in the contact experience. They should read my books, all of them. In fact, there's lots of books they should read, but one thing about my books that you can be guaranteed of, at least the guy who wrote them thinks they're true.
Yeah, you're the first one to really articulate the experience, weren't you?
Yeah.
So you're beginning to even look at a lot of the images of these craft that are flying around as of terrestrial origin?
I'm not trying to look, I'm just saying that I am not interested in drawing conclusions until I have facts. The fact I have now is there are implants in people's bodies. End of story. I have videos of UFOs. I have videos of another unknown phenomenon in the sky that we've just never noticed before that seems related in some way. Others are flashing past much closer. Those are much closer. That one. It looks like living creatures. We just don't know what this is. You'll see this slowed down and so forth, so you can look at it in detail. This is just a cloud in high contrast. It's not significant. Watch now as it comes out and it moves with the flexibility of a living creature. What was that? Some of those are just an unknown phenomenon. We don't know what those are. They're obviously not conventional UFOs, but there's something strange. We have the crop circles. The crop circles are real. The attempt on the part of the intelligence community to debunk the crop circles was lame and vile. They used National Public Radio as the means by which they spread their lie about their crop circle makers across the United States. It was immediately picked up by all of the media, and closure was put on the crop circles in the media, completely, in the United States and in England with this. This was a designed intelligence operation, a propaganda move carried out illegally against the American people. The people who did this, and I include in that the executives at NPR who made the decision to put it on the air knowing that it was not true, should be put in jail. They belong in prison. They violated the law. They committed felonies. One quite prominent, in fact, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist told me 5 years ago, he said, Whitley, if one word of this book is true, science has taken a kick in the shins because we've been lied to. He said to me 3 days ago, science took a body blow. We've been lied to, more than lied to. He said, I'm beginning to suspect I'm looking at one of the most evil things that has ever been done on this planet, and that is the concealment of the greatest secret of the greatest secret that mankind has ever known. I said, you're jumping to the conclusion that it's aliens. And he said, of course it's aliens. I said, wait a minute. Let's be clear about this. Don't do that. It's implants right now. It's crop circles. It's video. We don't know if it's aliens yet. Let's look through the implants, the video, and the crop circles and see what's on the other side of that. Then we can decide it. The secret government is like any kind of wild animal. It will do anything to survive. It will do anything it can to survive. It's going to be hard to break it. But if we want an American republic and a free country, we have to break it. The secrecy has to end in toto. It has to be possible for the average citizen to turn on his computer and get any piece of information that the government possesses. Or we don't have a republic. We don't have a republic. Now, this is not a free country. This is a police state. And I have an implant in my ear to prove it. I only know this, that what I intend to do with this is everything I possibly can to make it useful. I'm absolutely not going to sit back passively. That's the one thing that's true. Whether or not somebody chose me for this, I don't know. But if somebody chose me, if they chose me to go out there and terrorize the American people or keep them passive in some way, they picked the wrong guy. Because I'm going to go out there, I'm about freedom and empowerment. And I believe totally, from the depths of my soul, that the average individual, the average person walking the street is an extraordinary, amazing being. And I want to see those beings wake up to their power. I am human. I can tell you a lot about human being and my being. But I'm not going to try to tell you about something else like that, especially with as little information as I actually have. What domain am I in? Am I in a domain generated by some computer in Washington? Or I am in a domain that involves real contact with aliens? I don't know the answer to those questions yet. And until I do know the answer, how can I possibly discuss that? I can't.
So you're talking about the limitations of your own consciousness?
I'm talking about the limitations not of my consciousness, but of my knowledge.
And it's affecting your consciousness. Is it affecting your consciousness in the sense that it's
Well,
opening
look,
up your consciousness?
let me tell you something. It's very interesting that's happening right now. The implant is actually firing off at this moment. The ear is getting hot. The ringing is starting. We've turned it on by this conversation.
That's what we're talking about.
Well, we're talking about right now, in the past few minutes, the past 5 or 10 minutes, it's turned itself on. It's on now. Now, isn't that amazing? That a man can sit here and tell you that right now the implant is functioning. We've learned that much about it just in the past few weeks, just since we found out they were there.
What does it feel like subjectively?
It's hot. The ear is hot. And there's a ringing sound. And in a few minutes, if it stays on, the ear will get very red because of the heat.
It's red now.
Yeah, the ear is literally red now. And the temperature of the ear right now is about 101 degrees. It'll go up as high as 107. And when it's 107, it'll be bright red. I mean, I'll tell you this. You couldn't have asked for this is actually, you may even be able to pick up the redness of this ear on television. I don't know. I don't know if they can see it or not.
Yeah, there's a definite color difference.
Okay, well, that's an example of an implant actually functioning while we're doing this interview.
Did we piss him off?
I don't know what we did yet. I only know that there was some part of this conversation that caused the implant to turn on. I don't know what part. I don't know whether we angered them or whether it's interest or what it is. But I do know that it turned on, and you can see it.
Well, we spoke a lot of stuff, anti-government,
It was interesting that we were talking about the government is when the implant turned on, not when we were talking about the visitors. uncle, Colonel Edward Strieber, was one of the officers that received the debris from Roswell when this unknown craft crashed there, and he was stationed at Wright Field. And part of his assignment was to find to create a secure containment for some of this debris. And his best friend, General Arthur Exon, has gone on record in interviews in various books detailing a part of his personal experiences working in the Air Force in this area. It's just the fact that it's been held secret doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but the secrecy's wearing thin. No one's trying very hard to keep it anymore. It's not exactly like it was 5 years ago when they would tell you, well, this is the greatest secret the United States possesses, and then you'd find out the people who were supposed to know all of the secrets didn't know this one. It was really strange. But it's an open secret, at least in the political community in Washington. In fact, Colin Powell, I believe, in the last interview he gave before withdrawing from his candidacy, possible candidacy as president, said the next president will have to deal with the UFO issue. All of our friends in New York and Washington, we had friends in the political field, we had friends, because some of my books previously have been very political and very involved in the Democratic Party politics and so forth. That ended. We ended up with two couples who stayed our friends in New York, and everyone disappeared in Washington. But then over the next few years, they came creeping back to ask questions about the visitor experience and the aliens and stuff. They were fascinated. So most of the old Washington friendships have started up again, I'm glad to say. The Pope has said if there indeed turn out to be people from other worlds here, we should recognize their validity as creatures of God. And I think that's the position of the Church. I call the work I'm doing now, I say that it's about mankind entering the cosmos. And I think we're certainly just as good as any kind of beings and creatures I've ever seen. So my opinion is we belong out there with everybody else, if indeed everybody else is out there. I have no idea whether the universe is teeming with life or not. We have a sample of one planet to work from. It's not much. I think that the Hubble Space Telescope is beginning to suggest there are quite a number of stars with planets. And if that's the case, then inevitably there would be a lot of life in the universe, yes. But bear this in mind. The window that the Earth revolves in is only about 100,000 miles deep. And if it wasn't for the existence of this moon running around the planet, life would not have evolved. We'd have 300-mile-an-hour winds on Earth because of the velocity of rotation. So this little machine that has created all of this life here is actually an incredibly rare formation between a planet and a planetoid that just happened to be just the right distance from a star to where it's neither too cold nor too hot. So, given that, while I might say the universe would be teeming with life, it's not going to be overflowing with it. The thing is, there are so many stars that even given the fact that that rare structure would be so unlikely to form elsewhere, there might still be 200,000 or 300,000 of